¿Qué onda? Estos son 16 consejos que yo aprendí viviendo en México. Number 1, no pica. This means it's not spicy. However, if a Mexican says to you, no pica, run. You see, the worst thing is they're going to say it to you with this face. No pica. Run far away from that person. Report them to the police. The police will probably end up taking about 100 pesos from you, so... Anyways, Mexicans think that nothing is spicy. If they say something isn't spicy, it is always spicy. When I first moved to Mexico and was an innocent little gringo, I used to think that the green salsas would be less spicy than the red ones, of course. Fun fact, in Mexico City, green salsas often look like watery guacamole. They seem innocent until you realize that they are loaded with habaneros. So, proceed with caution when someone says no pica. Número 2, güero. Güero is a fair-skinned person or a blonde person. However, in Mexico, everyone is a güero. Even the darkest person will be called a güero in Mexico. For Mexicans, using güero is not seen as offensive and is commonly used amongst friends. The most common time you'll hear güero in Mexico is when you're at a tianguis, which is an informal market. So you'll be walking through the tianguis and someone will yell at you, "Pásele, güero, ¿qué le damos?" This just means, come right up. What can we give to you? Having lived in Mexico for a while, I swear, everyone in my neighborhood just calls me güero. Never by my name, I've always just been el güero, which it's fine with me. Fun fact, Mexicans also tend to call every Asian person chino or chinito, literally meaning Chinese person. I'm not saying this is right, but it is something they do. If you want to master Mexican Spanish, inside our Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy, we actually have a Mexican Spanish Pro course. In this course, we teach the ins and outs of Mexican Spanish, and I share some of my favorite phrases for instant laughs and shock factor. You can check it out by clicking the link in the video description or by going to SpanishWithNate.com. Número 3, ahorita. Ahorita does not mean now in Mexico. In Mexico, ahorita means in a little bit or in a little while. And I'm going to be honest with you, ahorita can also just mean never. So if someone tells you they're going to lavar los trastes ahorita, it's very possible that those dishes will never get washed. If you want to say right now in Mexico, you can say ahora mismo or de una vez. For example, ¿por qué no comemos de una vez? Or voy para allá ahora mismo. Número 4, me da or me das. When ordering food or drink in Mexico, do not say me gustaría. People will understand what you mean when you say me gustaría. However, it is way more common to hear and use me da or me das. This literally means me, you give. And you might think that this sounds a bit rude. However, it's not seen as rude at all. In fact, saying something like me da or me das is the most passive way that you can command someone to give you something. For example, me da 5 tacos, por favor. Me da is more formal because it comes from usted. Me representing me and da representing you give, or usted da. If you were to say me das, it means the same thing, but it's slightly more informal because das is coming from tú. Tú is the informal way to say you in Spanish. If I were you, I would stick to me da when ordering food and drink in Mexico. For example, me da un agua de Jamaica y una orden de suadero, por favor. An extra pro tip is that in Mexico, when you order una orden de tacos, so literally a order of tacos, you're going to get 5. Other ways that you can order are quiero, just meaning I want, voy a querer, I am going to want, or le voy a pedir, I am going to order, or I am going to order from you. So, le voy a pedir 5 tacos, por favor. Número 5. ¿Te gusta el chile? In Mexico, albures are a way of life. Albures are simply jokes that have double meanings, and they typically tend to be sexual. So the question, ¿te gusta el chile?, might seem innocent at first, but a chile can also represent, well, I think you know where I'm going with this. The first time I went to Aguascalientes, Mexico with my best friend Luis, his family was constantly telling me albures. One of my personal all-time favorites is vamos a ponerle Jorge al niño. I'll let you decipher that one on your own. Número 6, este. Never, ever, ever say in Mexico. If I ever hear someone say when speaking Spanish, it is a dead giveaway that they are not a native Spanish speaker, or they speak fluent Spanish, but they spent a lot of time in a place like the United States. Mexicans use the word to say So for example, ¿qué te iba a decir? What was I going to say to you? Rarely will you hear a native Spanish speaker say It's much more common that you hear something like or or no sé. I don't know. Other filler words that we use often are pues, bueno, o sea, and es que. Es que, la verdad, no sé, pues, o sea, digo, si quieres, vamos. You could create an entire sentence just using filler words. Número 7, con chile y limón. A los mexicanos les encanta comer todo con chile y limón. So when you're in Mexico and you get an esquite or un mango de la calle, you have to get it with chile y limón. When ordering something like an esquite, they might ask you, ¿lo quieres con chile y limón? Or, ¿quieres picante? To which you should always reply, claro que sí. If you want to embrace your inner Mexicano, then you need to eat everything with chile y limón, esquites, frutas, and even jicamas. Número 8, pedo. The word pedo in Spanish means about 972 different things. Not actually, but it has tons of different meanings. Originally, the word pedo means fart. For example, ¿echaste un pedo, güey? Did you fart, bro? However, pedo can also mean drunk, problem, no problem, what's up, situation, thing, mess, conflict, wavelength, wrong, among other meanings. For example, ¿qué pedo, güey? Estabas bien pedo en la fiesta. Te metiste en un pedo y nos dimos cuenta de que estabas en otro pedo. Mexican Spanish. Gotta love it. Número 9, órale. This is arguably my favorite Mexican word, and we use it for surprise. Órale can be a good thing or a bad thing. However, most times you're going to hear it as a positive thing. Acabo de jubilarme. Órale, felicidades, amigo. Hey, that's awesome. Congrats. And if we were to use this in a negative way, anoche me robaron la cartera. Órale, lo siento, amigo. Remember that órale is mostly used to express surprise. However, we can also use it for encouragement. So, for example, órale, Nate, gana la carrera. Come on, Nate, you got this. Win the race. Órale. Now, the next tips are not related to Spanish, but they are very important to know when you're in Mexico. Número 10, how to say sí and thank you in Mexico. In Mexico, you might think that everyone is angry when someone lets them cross the street. That's because you're going to see people do this when people let them cross the street. This means thank you. And actually, I was recently in California and a guy let me cross the street and I did this to him. Hopefully he was Mexican and didn't think that I was angry at him. So in Mexico, this is thank you. Another crucial gesture in Mexico is saying yes with your finger, just like this. It's most common to use this when eating or drinking, and this actually comes from the very popular Mexican TV show El Chavo del Ocho, in which the main character would always do this, eso, eso, eso. So this means yes, and this means thank you. Número 11. If you want to become friends with someone in Mexico, buy them a Coca-Cola. When I first started living in Mexico, I had made some friends in my neighborhood, and my novia, Yasmin, had said, hey, if you want to solidify your friendship with these guys, buy them a Coca-Cola. Almost all Mexicans love Coca-Cola, so this is a quick and easy way to tell someone, hey, I think you're cool and I really want to be good friends with you. Número 12. Don't wear shorts in Mexico. Please, don't do it. Unless you're at the beach or the gym, Mexicans rarely wear shorts. Now, of course, you can wear shorts on vacation in Mexico, but it is a dead giveaway that you're a foreigner if you're wearing shorts in Mexico, unless you're at the beach or you're at the gym. Other than that, you should always wear pants in Mexico. Even in the most blistering hot weather, you will see Mexicans wearing pants. Why? Because fashion, obviously. So, si tú estás en la Ciudad de México y yo te veo usando shorts, yo voy a saber que eres extranjero. Por eso, don't use shorts in Mexico. Just wear pants. Número 13. In Mexico, ovens are not used for cooking. They are used for storage. Never have I ever seen a Mexican oven that was not full of pots, pans, maybe even some photos from a quinceañera. Mexican ovens are used for storage and not for cooking. Why is this? Personally, I think it's because in Mexico, I can go outside, I can go to the panaderia, I can go to the pasteleria. I don't need to be baking things in my house. Therefore, I use the oven for storage instead of for baking things. So if you're in Mexico and you want to cook with the oven, make sure that you empty it first. Número 14, never show up to a Mexican party on time. This is a rookie mistake that us gringos make all the time. So you've finally been invited to the carne asada. You've got your best camisa de franela on, you're feeling good. You pull up to the function at 6:30 p.m., exactly when the party starts. Congratulations, you will now be setting up the party for at least another hour and a half. That's because if a Mexican party starts at 6:30 p.m., it actually starts at 8 p.m. I speak about this from personal experience because one time I was invited to a Mexican birthday party only to show up on time and have to set up for the next hour and a half. By the time the party actually got started, I was ready to take my 10-minute break and collect my paycheck for my hard work. Número 15. When in Mexico, kiss women on the cheek when you greet them. Now, you're not actually going to kiss them, but you are going to do a little smooching sound. Now, if you're a man and you're greeting another man, you're simply going to shake his hand. However, if a man and a woman greet each other, then they will do a little soft embrace, go cheek to cheek, and do a little kissing sound like that. I had a traumatic experience going to a Mexican wedding and not knowing how to greet women. Before I knew it, all these women were kissing me on the cheek. I started to freak out and was kind of like, oh, hey, oh, mucho gusto, oh my gosh. Thankfully, my best buddy Luis came to save my life and he said, listen man, this is how you greet women. You go like this, do a little smooching sound. It's that easy. And finally, número 16, las tortillas nunca pueden faltar. If you want to reach true Mexican status, you need to know that tortillas are la ley in Mexico. Tortillas are the cornerstone of every solid Mexican meal. And let's be honest, think about all of your favorite Mexican foods. What do they all have in common? Una tortilla. In Mexico, you need to know how to roll up a tortilla so you can eat it with your soup. You need to know how to make la famosa tortilla de sal, which is literally just a tortilla with some sal. And you should know that you should never ever get rid of old tortillas because you can make chilaquiles with them. Muchas gracias por ver el video. Click the link in the video description if you want to join our Fluent Spanish Speaker Academy. Our goal is to help you have a 10-minute conversation in Spanish in 90 days without feeling unconfident. Check it out by clicking the link in the video description. Muchas gracias. Hasta luego.